Hello and welcome to episode 258 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm the from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can follow me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. Join me as always is the ceremonious League Freak who you can find on Twitter at League Freak. How you going there, mate?
Going pretty well considering the way my day started, hey?
Well, this is the way you function, and that is start out like a king and get better from there.
Well, you want to hear how my day started?
Fill us in.
I'm sound asleep. I didn't sleep well last night. I'm sound asleep, out to the world, and I wake up to a tickle on my arm. I look down, this giant whitetail spider on my arm. So, like, half asleep, I flick it, and I don't know where it goes, but I'm up out of the bed like a ninja, and I'm like, well, where's it gone? Well, I can't find it. So I start turning my sheets over and everything, still can't find it. So I get like my Mortine, I use surface spray for everything, right? So I get that, I spray everything, and I'm up, I'm awake now. So I get up, chuck on some YouTube, have a coffee, all that sort of stuff. But I start getting tired again. And so I go in my room, I start looking for it. I eventually found it. It was still alive. So I killed that sucker. And then weirdly, because normally you'd think, you don't want to go back to sleep again. I fell into the most sound sleep. It was beautiful.
Did you have you got bites all over you when you woke up?
No, it's just because I double checked and it was just sitting on my forearm. No bites, no nothing. It just decided to hang out. It was really weird.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, I get
I'd have
woken
been
up
peeking
a
so
lot.
hard about that.
You what?
I would have been peeking so hard about that. So as soon as that thing's dead,
Yeah,
I go, right, that's phase one dealt with. Now, it had to have had parents,
yeah.
and there's a fair chance, given that it's out on its own, it's old enough to be independent, so it's probably got children somewhere, maybe even maybe it's married, who knows, kind of a small family.
Yeah.
There's bound to be at least another 300 of these fucking things somewhere. I'm going to need to kill them all.
And it was one of the big ones. Where how you see whitetails sometimes and they're pretty small. This was a huge one. I actually thought it was a wolf spider when I woke up, and then when I found it, I was like, "Oh, it's a whitetail. That's even better." So yeah, it was.
So now you know too that surface spray.
Yeah,
You need a fucking upgrade.
I do. Well, this surface spray really kills things, but it was like right under some other sheets and stuff, and I think it lucked out. So tomorrow I'm going to just basically waste an entire can of surface spray, just spraying everything.
Yeah, I'd vacuum everything, wash everything, and then just get as many chemicals in cans as you can find, and just completely napalm your room with it.
Yeah, that's basically the goal tomorrow.
That'll work.
Yeah.
That'll work. If that doesn't kill that as well as coronavirus, nothing will.
Speaking of killing it,
Oh yeah.
if you go to manscaped.com, right, and you get the Performance Package 3.0, and when you're paying for it, you put in the code NRL, you get 20% off and free shipping, and that is the definition of killing it.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Not only do you absolutely crush it in life, but you're also killing every single hair that's around your glorious nutsack you possibly can.
Exactly. I mean, who doesn't like having shiny cock and balls? You know?
I don't know. Maybe the French?
Possibly. But that's the whole goal of the Manscaped website. And if you go there, 20% off and free shipping is amazing, but they also throw in a 30-day money-back guarantee because they're so confident in their products, and their products are amazing. You get the Lawnmower 3.0, which is just the best thing since sliced bread, I reckon.
Yeah, sliced bread, let's be honest. It's overrated and it's been surpassed as a great invention.
Yeah, it has. It has.
Lawnmower 3.0 nails it. You know what? They even ship to France. So if you want to be a trendsetter in France, all you got to do is get onto manscaped.com, use our code NRL. You'll be changing the way the French people do things.
Yeah, you can smoke a cigarette in the darkness and shave your balls because the Lawnmower 3.0 has got a light on it.
There you go. You can even eat your snails while shaving your balls in the dark.
Yeah, and driving your Renault.
Well,
if it works.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it might break down.
It will. Welcome having you on as a sponsor, Renault.
Yeah.
If your marketing team wants.
We're going to be looking for a new sponsor coming up.
Yeah, we'll just take on any sponsor.
Yeah, it'd be good. Anyway.
Now, today, huge episode because this is the biggest night in Rugby League Awards ceremony for the year, of any year.
Mm-hmm.
It's the King of Rugby League Awards.
It's not selected by journalists.
Nope.
It's not selected by a bunch of soap dodgers. It's
certainly not.
Yeah, it is selected by me. Numero uno. And it is the best awards going. There's no points. There's no rules. It's, you did a TikTok video? You go ahead and do that TikTok video, son. I don't care. All right? It's all a dictatorship here on Fergo and the Freak. And the King of Rugby League Awards, the reason why they are a great marker for the history of the game is because there's none of the other bullshit involved in it.
That's right, and it's been consistent from day one because there's only been one person involved in the process.
Yeah, although I do consult with you now.
You do. I don't ever expect you to take my word, but it feels nice to think that maybe you will.
Of course I will.
All right.
Imagine if I just sat here and went, well, yeah, that's pretty much how I look at it too. Just such an ego. So yeah, shall we get into it?
Yeah, we've got 5 awards, so it's not going to be something where we'll just completely lock this down and try and find a way to get everyone a fucking award.
Mm-hmm.
5 awards, that's it, no bullshit, and it's not just for one game; it's for the entire game around the world.
It starts at the very first game of the year, and it ends at the very last game of the year. Yep. And everything's involved: international, state of origin, club games, whatever.
Yep. From every competition all around the world.
Yep.
Okay, so the biggest story.
Mm-hmm.
Who have you got down for this one, mate?
You could not go past the global pandemic shutting down the entire game.
Completely agree.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that there was a point where the NRL was like, this pandemic, and 3 weeks later, game is shut down. Like, not playing at all. Stopped for about a month or so. Super League, it turned that into a shambles. Everything shut down. All sport shut down at some point. And looking back in 20 years' time, that would be the big story of this year, I think, but like by a long, long way.
Yeah, I mean, the impact that on the game was immense
and
immediate.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Do you think that, on an international scene, we only had one game played at the start of the year, and it was an unofficial match.
Mm-hmm.
And then every other international game that was lined up for the rest of the year was was initially put on hold.
Yeah.
Only one game went ahead, and it was Germany versus Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else other than that, they could have, if they wanted to, they could have had Australia versus New Zealand or Tonga or something like that. Could have had England versus France if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But a lot of these nations were pretty much in, I suppose, a semi-shutdown mode where they didn't want to risk losing any more money.
Yeah, and like I know for European countries, it was basically impossible to play, for most of them anyway, an international game. So that we actually got one played was kind of a miracle. And it, in the Southern Hemisphere, the New Zealand Rugby League's hopeless. They're not going to do anything. And the Australian Rugby League, they had to play the State of Origin series, and they knew that, having the elite players in lockdown for another 3 extra weeks, and then asking them to do another extra week on top of that, at best case scenario, and then you have to get an opposition international team to join together in some city and possibly lock down for 2 weeks. It made it so difficult. And you look at all of the knock-on effects from the pandemic, the way that the game's funding was cut by broadcasters, no fans in the stands for most of the season, for the whole season over in Super League. Just so many different knock-on effects that have happened from it. And it's going to be interesting to see what changes end up being permanent from what we've seen happen this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all pretty confident that the NRL is going to be business as usual. Super League is a different story altogether because, I mean, they already cut one team. A few other teams struggled to complete their games at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We had one team losing points because of some financial issue they had about 7 years ago or some crap.
Mm-hmm.
They're in ruin over there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting what will happen. There's already talk that the Rugby League World Cup could be put on hold. They're still a bit sort of up in the air, I guess, on that one. So
yeah, they seem committed to playing on, but I just can't imagine that this time next year everything's going to be completely fine again.
No, that's right. The UK has been trying to figure out how they get rid of the coronavirus there because they've done basically effectively next to nothing during the second wave. What was it, about 2 weeks ago? They decided to, was it 2 weeks? It'd be about 2 weeks ago. They decided to bring in a lockdown for 4 weeks. That was after they peaked at 33,000 cases for the day. And 17 days later, they're still getting 15, or almost 16,000 cases a day.
Yeah, and they're locking down different areas, and it's terrible over there. It's really bad. So I just can't imagine that it's all just going to disappear in less than 12 months from now.
No, it's all right. It'll still be there.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, they can't have the World Cup in England. They can't have it in Europe. It's pretty much the case. It's going to have to be in the Southern Hemisphere somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. Okay, we'll go to the next one here. The Representative Player of the Year. And this is going to be one that will be this unique as hell.
It really is, because there are no limits. Everyone's just as important as everyone else. And, you look at basically we had the State of Origin games, and we had an unofficial test and a normal test match. Mm-hmm. And, you look at the State of Origin series, I don't think you can say any one player played great in two of the games. There was kind of one player who would play good in one game,
Yeah, no one dominated.
Yeah, and you and me were lucky enough to sit down and watch Germany play the Netherlands. We saw one player that really stood out for us. We felt like he made a real difference to the game. He looked like the most dangerous player on either side. And he actually come from the team that didn't win the game.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Because this will be the only time that a player has picked up the Representative Player of the Year award, despite never winning a game that year on the international scene.
Yeah, and like, he just thoroughly deserved it. Every time he was out there, it was, all hands on deck to stop him. So the winner, and I hope I pronounce his name right, is Morley.
Wooley?
Yep. Amafia.
Yep. I'm good with that.
Yeah, and he was great. He was just great. He was a powerhouse, and really stood out of all of the players on the team. When he ran a little bit wider, you could see the Netherlands team they were all hands on deck to stop him. He was fantastic. Yeah,
it's pretty much like watching a world-class second rower playing against the Broncos.
Yeah, exactly.
He just did what he wanted.
Yeah, very strong player as well. And there was a few times where, in fact, by the end of the match, you and me kept on saying, look, just get him the ball.
Yeah.
He was that good.
So threatening the whole time. I love watching him play.
Yeah.
I'd love to see some of these players just getting a bit of a chance to run in the New South Wales Cup or the Queensland Cup.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they went.
Just to give them that experience with some elite level players and go, look, this is, you're great at what you do,
Yeah.
but this is how you can be better. And then get them under that system just for a year and then take it back to the international scene and just see what they do, because I reckon he would have been brutal.
Yeah, I agree. I reckon you could I reckon you could put him on the bench immediately for a New South Wales Cup team or a Queensland Cup team, and he'd be fine.
Yeah, yeah, and he'd learn and be one of those great improvers. Because that's the thing, a lot of these guys in these European nations, they play for the love of the game more than anything else, and so they are hungry to learn.
Yeah. So and the cool thing was, we've seen other international awards handed out, and they really focus on, the teams that get most of the media attention, and this was an opportunity to, really reward someone.
That's right.
And it'd be about none of that.
I think that was the thing that was disappointing most about the International Rugby League choosing not to go ahead with the Golden Boot Award this year.
Yeah.
Because that literally is their award for the International Player of the Year. Not the greatest player in the world.
Yeah.
But the International Player of the Year. And they decided, no, we're not doing it this year.
And we all know they scrapped it, and we all know that if Australia or England had played an international, that they wouldn't have scrapped it, which is gross.
It is. I mean, imagine how great it would have been for Germany or the Netherlands if the winner had come from one of those two nations.
Yeah, exactly. So I wasn't going to allow that to happen, and I'm really happy with that award.
No, I agree. I think it's fantastic. It's going to be one of the most Googled names in rugby league now.
I might have to. Sorry, I muted my mic for a second. I might have to put a link on my website from his name and do like a player profile for him. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually,
maybe even link it to the YouTube video of the game that he played in against the Netherlands this year.
Yeah, true. Or I could just send people to Rugby League Project too.
Well, yeah, that would work.
I hear that's a pretty good site.
Yeah, they're not too bad. Speaking of not too bad, the team of the year.
The team of the year. There were a few choices for this one.
Who are your choices? Yeah, okay. Let's go through those.
Look, the Melbourne Storm were outstanding. The Penrith Panthers had a incredible winning streak. But when it come to the team performance, that they really gelled great as a team and they did something really extraordinary, I could not go past the Queensland Rugby League team. They come in as huge underdogs, and I was just so impressed with how they all just gelled as a team, their work ethic. I think that it might be the most impressive coaching effort of Wayne Bennett's entire career, and I really do. I put their win right there with the 1995 Queensland team, and I just couldn't go past them.
I think that's a brilliant idea, because they were expected to get trounced 3-0 and probably lose every game by 40 or given, all they had available. You consider that the majority of their team is made up by players from the Titans, the Cowboys, and the Broncos, all of which had dismal seasons. The Titans had a strong finish to the year, but none of those teams finished inside the top 8. The Broncos were historically one of the worst teams in history. The Cowboys were barely any better. It's remarkable what they managed to achieve. And then you throw in a few of the injuries, like Kalen Ponga didn't get to play. So the fact they did what they did, despite those, is phenomenal. Really is.
It really was. And like, I remember at one point this year, I don't think we recorded it, but you and me were looking at the eligible players for Queensland, and we were shaking our heads. We were like, man, they're going to get trounced in the Origin series. And they didn't. They were outstanding. So, easy team of the year. Like, the Storm probably unlucky to miss out, because what they've done is incredible. But yeah, Queensland, easy.
Easy. Next, we move on to the Rookie of the Year. And this would have had a fair few contenders in there as well.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it really was an easy one, and I had to go with Harry Grant. Whenever he was playing for the West Tigers, they looked like a completely different team. And then when he eventually finally got his chance in State of Origin, he looked like one of the best players in the world. And, it's crazy to think that this is his first year of first grade footy. In a couple of years' time, he might win the big one. That's how good he's going. So
it was his first year as a regular first grade star. I think he's had like one or two games over the last season or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen enough footage of him playing in the Queensland Cup to know that when the Tigers secured that swap deal with him,
mm-hmm.
I may have even said at the time that he was taking the West Tigers from being a wooden spoon contender to a ninth place contender. And it sounded like a bit of a joke, but the results proved that I was right, because you took Harry Grant out of that side and they were tired and miserable looking.
Yeah, they were dire without him on the field.
Yeah.
And they were, at least you could say, they were a bit competitive with him on the field. And, it's crazy to think that he could be playing for the Storm in 15 years from now. And I can't wait to watch his entire career. It's so exciting when you see a player like that, and you just know that you're going to get the chance to watch them for more than a decade. It's fantastic.
I think and it highlights how good Craig Bellamy and the Melbourne Storm are, because who would have thought, when you've had a team that's got Billy Slater, Cooper Cronk, and Cameron Smith in there, and they've been dominant for so long.
Yeah.
Who would have thought you'd have been able to replace all three of them so quickly?
Yeah.
And yet we've got Pappenhausen, Munster, and now Harry Grant.
It's crazy. It's really crazy.
It's fucking unfair.
And Munster's the old one,
Yeah.
It's insane, really, and it shows how good Melbourne are. You feel like they've got a plan,
Yeah, they just know how to find talent and how to make it reach its full potential, if not go above it. But Harry Grant has always been just a really special player, and he's just going to be even better once he gets under Bellamy full time.
And I think that third Origin game he played, where, if it wasn't for Munster, he could have been in the running for man of the match. He was that good when he came on.
Oh, yeah.
I think having that experience will just send him to a completely new level.
Oh, he'll be full of confidence now going into the off-season.
Yeah.
The best thing for the Storm was him getting an Origin call-up and then dominating like he did.
Yep, 100%.
All right. Final award. The King of Rugby League, the greatest player in the world.
The numero uno. Look, there was, as the season went on, it chopped and changed a little bit. I think at the start of the year, Jason Taumalolo got out to a pretty early lead. He looked very good, but his season, it tailed off a little bit. At one point, Nathan Cleary come into contention, especially as the Panthers kept winning all those games. And, if they had have won the grand final, it would have been a real difficult choice. Because of all of the Panthers players, he was the only one that you could not replace if somebody got injured, But I went with the player that I think it's fair to say proved throughout the entire year that they were the player to stop, that they were the elite player, and that they still held the crown as the best player in the world. And that player is James Tedesco.
I fully agree. You consider that the Roosters had a bit of player churn throughout the off season last year after winning their title.
Mm-hmm.
Using someone like Latrell Mitchell and Cooper Cronk, they're pretty big losses.
Yep.
So a lot more responsibility for the team's attack. did fall on Tedesco's shoulders, and he took it in his stride.
Yeah, and he, in the New South Wales team, when things weren't going great, he was very difficult for Queensland to stop. There was a lot of criticism about him and the way he was playing. I thought he played fantastic for New South Wales. For the Roosters, he was their number one player easily, their most consistent player easily. He was last year's award winner, so he becomes one of the few players to win more than once. And yeah, he's still the number one player in the world. It was a pretty close run thing, though. But yeah, it was just too difficult to go past him.
No, I could definitely accept that. For me, he's probably just pissed Moses and by.
So you're saying you'd be up for a player swap?
Well, I think the Roosters should consider it.
Yeah, just to be fair.
Just to be fair. Plus, it's cheaper. Like, Moses and By is only on $1 million a year, or just under that.
Exactly.
Tedesco's going to cost twice that.
So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think eventually, I'd be kind of shocked if Cleary didn't eventually get named as the best player in the world. And Taumalolo, if he just has one season where he's as good from start to finish, it's hard to go past him. But yeah.
I think for Taumalolo, his problem is always going to be the quality of his teammates.
Yeah, and that's a big problem. And the thing about Taumalolo is, when he did get back into stride at the end of the year for the Cowboys, and this season was long gone, he was putting up massive numbers still, while most of his teammates were playing like bludgers.
Yeah, exactly. As for Cleary, it's almost an absolute certainty that he's going to get this title sometime soon, because he's got a very talented young Panther side, which are largely going to be remained intact for several years. Yeah, we saw what they did this year, so they're only going to get better with experience and confidence.
And for a young halfback, he'd probably be only behind Andrew Johns that I can think of in terms of having so many different high-level experiences at the age he has. And there's just every 3 months or so, you can see he's added a little something to his game. And you even saw that in the Origin series in that second game where he just dominated the whole game. So, I'd be shocked if he didn't win it at one point, but it was still James Tedesco's title at this stage.
I agree. Well, there you go. It's they're hard to argue with.
Yeah, and the main thing for these awards, I wanted them to be a marker, so that when you look back through them, and you can go and see the award winners list on leaguefreak.com, I wanted you to be able to look back and say, I'll just randomly pick a year, I don't know, 2001, Andrew Johns won it. And to be oh, yeah, well, they won the premiership that year. It was maybe Andrew Johns at the very peak of his powers. In 2003, Darren Lockyer won it. And, the season he had in 2003 was ridiculous. Yeah. So, and just to be that you can go back through and you can see the winner and be oh, yeah, he was so good that year. And there's not many awards I think you can do that with, unfortunately.
So did you have, say, 2018 Thomas Mackinson?
No.
That must have been tempting.
You know what? I thought about it, and that's probably the problem there. I actually thought about it.
Well, getting the golden boot makes you think about it.
In 2018, it was Roger Tuivasa-Sheck.
Yeah, hard to argue with that.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. That's done and dusted.
Yeah, yeah.
Should we move on to a bit of opinion in the news?
Yeah, let's do some opinion stuff.
Okay. Over at Fox Sports, Mark, some bloke, has written this article called "Time to Justify the Price Tag: 7 NRL Playmakers Who Face Make or Break 2021 Seasons."
Oh, that's interesting.
All right, so his first one is Anthony Milford.
Anthony
And
Milford. Is Anthony Milford off contract at the end of this year? I think he is. Or this following year, 2021?
he might be, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he is. I wish I had a make or break season where I'd already been earning about $1 million a year. Hey,
Already played Origin.
yeah, internationals.
Yeah, it seems odd that he's on this list. I don't think he was the reason why the Broncos were poor last year.
No.
So they could start essentially laying a large chunk of that blame on his shoulders already. That's I don't know. I think it's a sign of someone who's not quite a rugby league analyst.
I feel like you could talk half a dozen clubs into paying at least $800,000 for Anthony Milford tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Now, there's one here who you might agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell Pearce.
Yeah, I feel like it felt like there were rumblings out of Newcastle for the second half of the year that they were maybe ready to move on from Mitchell Pearce and take the next step beyond where he could take them. He didn't have a good year, and there was talk that he might actually go back to the Roosters, which I thought was interesting. We've talked about his future, where he could end up. I've said that I think he should move to hooker. I think he'd be a fantastic hooker.
Well, that's the thing. He is a very good defender especially for a halfback. So I reckon he can handle that transition to hooker pretty well.
Yeah, so do I. And it will be interesting. I think that the thing that he has gone for him at Newcastle is that there's not too many other players that can really say that they want claims on that halfback role. But, they got the young bloke from North Queensland. I think that deal has finally gone through. It was off for a while, but I think it finally went through.
Was that Jake Clifford?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but he's not the sort of halfback where you definitely can lock into him for the future. So it's going to be interesting to see if they do start. I mean, if they started the season with Clifford, it's all over for Pearce, unless they moved him to 5'8". But even so, it might be a sign that they're getting ready for the post-Mitchell Pearce era. And you've got to wonder where he would end up. I mean, I still think that there'd be a lot of teams that could use a player like him, but I don't think anybody that's looking to contend for the title.
I think if you've got a genuinely good six, you can create opportunities. And you just need a 7 to do some basic stuff. Be a distributor, have a reasonably reliable enough kicking game.
Yeah.
You're not picking a halfback who you need to lean heavily on for the attack.
Yeah.
He'd go fine. So he'd probably slot in reasonably well at the Sharks. Because you've got someone like Sean Johnson there, or Connor Tracy, or young Trindle there. Those three are pretty good playmakers, and they can create pretty much at will.
Yeah.
So I'd say Mitchell Pearce would be an upgrade on the likes of Chad Townsend.
Well, say he and we say this about this team all the time, but say he went to the Melbourne Storm. You'd be like, wow, that is a ridiculously good signing for them. And it would be because he would help their defence, and all of the main playmaking is going to get done by Munster.
Yeah.
So in the right situation, he'd be a good signing. But I feel like for Newcastle, he was probably shown he's reached the limit of what he can give them.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle probably had plans for Pearce to be there for just 3 years, and then they'd sort of fall back on Jared Mullen, but Jared Mullen kind of fucked that plan up for him. But I'll say this in his defence. I think it was a bit harsh to hit him with too much criticism this year, given how many times Newcastle were without a hooker due to injury.
Yeah.
And how many times they went through 5/8s. Cullen Pinger kept getting moved around, and he had a few injuries as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell Pearce was the only consistent part of their spine all year.
Yeah, and look, the thing that has always got me about Pearce up in Newcastle is that when something good happens with their attack, it normally is Ponga coming up in the line from fullback and playing almost that 5/8 role. And I just don't think he gives them enough in attack.
Yeah. Right, the next one here is Michael Morgan.
Oh, I think he's done, unfortunately.
I agree, and I would say a lot of it comes down to he's had a lot of head knocks.
Yeah.
And I think after a while, that does start to play on you mentally, because you'd be going into every match thinking, I've got to look after myself and not get hit too many times so I don't get concussed or sort of thing. And so you start playing tentative football, not taking on the line, and so you start becoming predictable.
Yeah.
And easy to defend against. And that's kind of how I feel Michael Morgan's gone.
Yeah, and it's crazy how quickly it's happened as well. Like 2 years ago, we would have been saying like Origin player, Test player, and now it really does seem like just physically he's not able to play first grade footy anymore, which is a real shame. And when he has got out in the field, I mean, there's been some games where it's looked really, really bad. Like you kind of feel sorry for him. And you hope that he puts his health first because he's achieved a lot.
Oh, he has, and he's been bloody great for the majority of his career.
Yeah.
The problem they're going to have now, though, at the Cowboys is they have lost Clifford. So
yeah,
they're not going to move on him.
Well, that's the weird thing about when there was talk that Clifford was going to move on, and it was kind of weird before that reason. And then when it was called off, you were like, okay, they've come to their senses, but they've lost him again. So, I couldn't build a season around Michael Morgan at all.
No, not at all. Next one is Mitchell Moses.
Wow, I don't get that one. How does that work? He's playing the best footy of his career. He's in a team that's going to be in the finals next year. He's got when Dylan Brown is playing. Dylan Brown was injured towards the end of the year, but when Dylan Brown is playing, Dylan Brown is like the perfect, 5/8 for him, kind of like what we're talking about Mitchell Pearce. I think that Moses is fine.
He is. Look, the problem he had, okay, and I'm not being facetious here, okay, when he's playing great, he's running the ball and he's taken on the line, and this was the same at the West Tigers.
Yeah.
And when he starts to get tentative or tired, as the season goes on, he stops taking on the line. He starts running sideways, and he passes way before the line, and he stops being a attacking threat. The only thing he's got at that stage is his kicking game close to the line.
Yeah,
that's his only attacking threat. And Parramatta are blessed with having some great outside backs who are good at capitalising on that. But all he needs to do for the rest of his career is think, run first, and run straight. Is when he takes on the line, he's got plenty of toe on him.
Yeah.
He's got a good step late, close to the line as well, and he's got a good passing game. It's just between the ears. If he had a bit of an injury, he comes back and he was just tentative when he came back, and he never got out of that mindset.
And I think that injury might have been worse than they let on.
I agree.
They said it was his calf. I remember when he did it, I thought he's just done his Achilles. That it looked so much like an Achilles injury. They said it was his calf. He come back during the season, which shows it probably wasn't his Achilles, but he just didn't look the same physically. And the thing about running with the ball... Sorry, what was that?
He just didn't trust his leg.
No, not at all. Not at all. And the thing about halfback running, and you saw, it was interesting to watch it with Cleary at the end of the year. Cleary really had to make an effort to run the ball. And when he ran the ball, even with if nothing was doing, it gave him the confidence to do everything else. And so you would see sometimes Nathan Cleary would get the ball and there'd be nothing on it and he'd say, right, I'm running it. And it might have got him like 5 metres, but it did start something happening. And I think that sometimes a halfback, they need someone in their ear saying, run it, run it, run it, run it, you know. And I think that Mitch Moses is one of those players. But the problem is, Dylan Brown is such a young player still. He probably doesn't feel like that's his role. So maybe it's up to somebody else in the team.
Yeah. I wouldn't put him on this list just yet.
No.
I like to mock him, but I don't think he's I don't think he deserves to be on this list.
No, not at all.
Next on here is Ben Hunt.
I guess.
So the thing with Ben Hunt is since he moved to the Dragons, he's been coached by Paul McGregor.
Yeah.
And he's been notoriously bad for any team's attack. And Ben Hunt came along as being a genuinely good attacking half and ended up being forced to play hooker.
Yeah, I feel like he's been a player that's been mismanaged by pretty much everybody for the last few years. Have you ever looked at Ben Hunt and said, "Oh yeah, he'd be a hooker"?
No.
No.
But you know what? In saying that, he made a good fist of it when he went there. Like he wasn't. His performance aren't through a lack of effort.
No.
Unlike some of these other players who just go, yeah, you know what, they're not quite putting 110% in like you'd normally expect. This bloke is busting his ass every fucking week. And the way the teams attack and the structure is designed, it's anti-attack. And so what the fuck are you supposed to do as an attacking player?
Yeah, and I mean, Corey Norman's form has been all over the place. The forward pack at the Dragons, I mean, they go from looking like world beaters early in the year, and that falls away really, really quickly because you just can't play the way they were playing. To the point where, they're easy beats. And on top of that, the first player that for some reason, that they blame it all on is Hunt. They dropped him a few times, and I don't know why. I think that Hunt could go. I think Hunt would be really good at halfback for Canberra. I think that'd be an upgrade for them at halfback. I think Hunt going to the Melbourne Storm would be great for them. Like, there's a bunch of places he'd be good for. Tell me Ben Hunt wouldn't be good at North Queensland.
I'd be brilliant at North Queensland.
Yeah.
Especially with Todd Payton, who is a more of an attacking sort of coach. Mm-hmm. He'd slot into their system pretty well.
Yeah.
Pretty damn well. Who's next on here? Luke Brooks.
Oh, man. Look, he had a really bad season, hey? Like, I was shocked at how bad his season was.
First of all, he's not being paid as much as these other players.
No, not even close.
Secondly, when have the Tigers ever had a forward pack that's dominated, that lays a platform for the halves to work off?
Never.
Look, the only player who's been able to make the Tigers look good, despite that forward drama they've got there, is Benji Marshall. Like, you have to be Benji Marshall good to make something good out of the club. Mm-hmm. And Luke Brooks is a good attacking player, but he's got so few options around him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think if you put Luke Brooks in nearly any other club, he'd probably be, an immensely better player.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And they'd probably straight away give him more money too.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. He's got a good defensive technique, but his size means that he doesn't have much impact in defence.
Yeah, at some point it's just physics.
Yeah. So people will criticise me over that, but if you watch the way he goes into for a tackle, He's trying to effect a tackle the best way he can given his size. He's not trying to shirk responsibilities. His defensive positioning is always pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But his problem is always going to be, given he's a small fella, he's going to get targeted.
Mm-hmm.
And the players that defend either side of him have not been good defenders.
No.
And so he just makes him a bigger target. So I don't know. I don't think he's that big a drama.
Mm-hmm.
He's 25.
Yeah.
So you would have expected him to have been, had a bit more success than now. But I don't know. Maybe Maguire can fix him up. He's going to have a bit of money to spend at the end of next year to, build a proper team around him. He doesn't have a consistently, regular halfback or 5'8" around him.
Mm-hmm.
He's been moved, like this year he got moved between 6 and 7 a fair bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Or, not playing at all while Maguire tries to figure out who's going to be his halves and still come up with no idea.
And look at the start of this year, we were talking about, and I know I was saying I wouldn't be shocked if he gets to a point where he looks around at what's happening at the Tigers and says, I've got to go somewhere else. It's just, I can't waste my career away at a team that's just a revolving door of, on the verge of retirement players that they keep bringing in. Unfortunately, he had a really bad year. So I dare say it's the worst year of his career this year. But he had plenty of help at the Tigers in that regard. I mean, there was a lot of players that didn't have good years at the Tigers. And some of their selection decisions, I mean, when they dropped Benji Marshall, I found that strange because it didn't make them any better. It made them far worse. And then when Benji come back, they got far better than they were without him.
And then they chose not to sign him for next year.
Yeah, which makes zero sense. The only one that's like, yes, I want to play on next year, and still their best player, and they show him the door. It's silly.
It really was. So, who knows? I do agree with what they wrote in the article that he needs to step up and take ownership of the team next year. There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
A lot of journos have said that Benji and Farah have prevented that from happening to him in past seasons, which is just garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Farah takes ownership of a team if no one else will. And Benji's the same. And so that's what happened. And I mean, they're born leaders, so that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
But they're not doing it to white ant their teammates.
No.
Because they're not the white anting types. They're there because they want the team to win. That's why they play. That's why every fucking player plays.
Yeah.
So
except for Darius Boyd.
It's true. So next on the list is player you just mentioned before was Corey Norman.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to end up in Super League, hey? I just feel like he's been given opportunities by different coaches over time and, he's been put in good situations and he's shown glimpses of what he can do, but at some point I just think that your chances run out. And I think he'll end up in Super League.
I think the reason why he's on this list is because the Dragons paid him so fucking much money.
That's a good point.
That's it. Like if he was sitting there on $400,000 a year, you would say, yeah, you know what, that's what you pay for.
Mm-hmm.
But they've paid so much for him that's a lot of pressure they've put on him to perform week in, week out.
Mm-hmm.
And that just comes down to the Dragons being shit at what they do.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a handy enough player in the NRL if he's got a good 7 outside him.
He can be inconsistent though.
He can be, but you sort of it's a little, I suppose, Anthony Milford, Cody Walker-ish about him.
Yeah,
it's that inconsistency that makes him hard to play against because you don't know if you're going to get him in red hot form or whether he's just going to be quiet.
Yeah,
you don't know how to defend against that. You don't know how to deal with that, and it can change from week to week.
I wonder what would be the perfect team for him then. Like, I wonder if you put him outside, say DCE at Manly, if that would be something that could resurrect his career.
I agree. I think that's the sort of thing he needs. He needs genuine 7 who can steer a team around and do so much of the playmaking. He just feeds off the back of that.
Yeah.
I do generally think he's a 6. You see most clubs try and push him in at fullback every now and then just to see if he can do it, and he's okay at it. But I'd rather him at 6, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't understand when they do that. He's definitely a 5'8".
So yeah, I'm like you. I think he's Super League quality.
Yeah.
And who else we got on here? That's it for the list.
Okay. Can you think of any other players that maybe? I mean, how you don't have Cohen Hess on a list like that is beyond me.
He's one of the first ones I put on there.
Yeah.
Cohen Hess is definitely. You've definitely got to put him on there.
Who else? I mean, look, Bryce Cartwright's probably on his last chance at the Eels.
Matt Moylan.
Matt Moylan, yeah, he's a good one. He's a really good one. Chad Townsend.
Yeah. Aaron Woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
was that? Manly half. Had a bit of off-field trouble.
Walker.
PlayStation. Yeah, Dylan Walker.
Yeah, Dylan Walker, yeah.
I'd be adding him onto that list.
Yeah.
Because he's not been a threat for pretty much all of his entirety at Manly.
No, he's been rubbish.
Yeah. So, I'd put him on the list. Who else we got here?
I think maybe Blake Ferguson as well. Because
he had a very poor year.
He did, yeah. And I think at times he was just unlucky, but the Eels have already said to him they're not going to re-sign him after his contract's ended, which is really good of the Eels for them to say, hey, look, you got to start looking for your future. You're safe at the club for the rest of your contract, but you got to look beyond that for yourself. If he has another poor year, he's going to find it difficult to get a contract somewhere else because he's going to be on a decent amount of money wherever he goes, and you can get cheap wingers. That's easy.
No, we've discussed that before.
Yeah.
I throw in probably Ben Teo and Andrew Fafita.
Yeah, look, Andrew Fafita definitely. I just hope he's getting rested during the off season. He looks just busted physically.
Well, that's the thing. He's played too many seasons with niggling injuries.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He just wants to play footy. But there's got to come a time where he says, you know what, you've got to sit down, mate, and get your body back together.
Yeah, and I think it may be because he's had some leg injuries, and he's carried weight very, very well in the past, like extremely well. Hasn't hurt his cardio or anything at all. But I think maybe it might be a good thing for him to drop the weight just to take the pressure off of his lower body.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. We would need to lose him. I mean, you saw Josh Papali is another one, just like Fafita, who can carry a bit of weight like that and not be impacted by it, and it just actually adds a bit of extra to his power.
Yeah. Some play, and we've heard Fafita at the Sharks, even when they had all of their best players there, he was the best in terms of cardio and all sorts of stuff. He's a really gifted athlete, but you don't want him to retire early. He could play for a very long time because he's such a good player. But I mean, this year, especially the second half of the year, he was running out and he had all the strapping on him. It was incredible.
You could see he was struggling too. So it'd be good just for him to miss the first half of the season perhaps, and just get your body 100% tickety-boo, because he's a beast and a half when he's fully fit.
He really is. He can win a game on his own. He's one of those.
Oh, yeah. Guy's a freak of talent.
Look, Ben Teo, I think's done. I don't know why they brought him back at the Broncos. I thought it was stupid.
Yeah. You should have kept him in Union.
Yeah.
Tyson Frizzell.
Look, he's going up to Newcastle with a new contract. He played all right during Origin, but he's not what he used to be like probably 18 months ago, I'd say.
No, that's right. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak.
Oh yeah, he's a good one. He's gone from being an absolutely terrifying fullback to face up against at international level to being a liability for the Bulldogs. It's shocking.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where they don't know who their fullback is anymore. I mean, that's what you bought him to the club for.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like, if you just look at him as a physical player, like he had some really good touches as a player at the Panthers and when he played Test footy for New Zealand. But then when that started to go away from his game, he was still a physical presence. Well, now he's not even a physical presence, and that's a real worry. And I think that has a lot to do with him being lazy. I think he's been lazy.
Yeah, that's a fair call. I've got to throw Moses and by.
Oh, yeah. Like, look, if he was on the open market tomorrow, who signs him?
Agreed.
You know, and what do you sign him for? Like, I don't even think he's a quality utility player on the bench. I think his level is perfect at New South Wales Cup level. I think that's his ceiling.
Yeah, he's a Super League player.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, there's talk that the West Tigers have, in their contract to James Tarmo, they've said that he will be captain.
Yeah.
And if so, that gives the Tigers a bit of a get-out clause with Moses and By, where they don't need to put him in the 13 or even the 17 anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But still, that's him and Packer, and you throw in Josh Reynolds.
So much money.
That is a huge amount of money in 3 players that's not playing in the 17.
Yeah, and I can't pick any of them.
That's nearly $3 million.
Yeah. And like playing New South Wales Cup level, I think Reynolds is going to be really good in New South Wales Cup. Mbai's not going to stand out in New South Wales Cup.
No, that's right.
And neither's Packer.
Packer's done.
Yeah, he's finished.
He should be on the top of that list. He is done.
Yeah.
So yeah, we came up with a list of ours that was bigger.
I think it was a better list, yeah. I tell you, another player that I'm half interested to see what he does. And normally I find him extremely boring. Sonny Bill Williams. I think he will probably retire. I'd be a little bit surprised if he played on. I mean, he'd be able to get a contract somewhere. I don't think he's an NRL player anymore. He might be. I wouldn't be shocked if he went to like the Catalan Dragons or something, more for the lifestyle move.
Yeah.
But I think that his time as an elite footballer is well and truly over, and I think he showed that when he played in the NRL. Even when he played in Super League, you were saying he was terrible when he played for the Toronto Wolfpack. He
was struggling to hold down a position outside.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree on that one as well. Now, should we, I'd be a little bit controversial here, name our list of, say, 7 rugby league journalists who need to improve next year?
Just 7?
Just 7.
Just 7?
Just to make it a challenge.
All right.
They don't have to be in order from most to worst or anything like that. Just 7. 7 names who need to be better at what they do.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's going to be tough because I don't read any of them.
Well, I'll take the obvious bait first, and that's James Hooper.
Yeah, he's just turned into a blogger.
Yes, he needs to stop talking about what he wants his opinion to come across as.
Yeah.
Where he says, word is and sources say and stuff, and, actually speak to people and get on the record quotes, because at the moment, people just don't give a fuck about what you say anymore.
Yeah, well, how many times have, you brought up one of the articles that he's written and there's literally no quotes in it?
Yeah, and the articles, are often 200-300 words in length. Like, how do you even justify writing that shit and getting paid for it?
Yeah, I remember on my website, if I hadn't written 500 words on a subject, I was like, oh, this is crap. I'm not posting this, you know.
Yeah. It seems the more airplay he gets, the more opinions he sort of sprouts out, the more he gets paid, the less he writes as far as content in articles is concerned.
Yeah.
And what he puts out now is utter dross.
Yeah. I can't believe how bad a lot of the rugby league media has gotten. Like, it's gotten really bad.
It has. Which would lead me to number 2, and that's Phil Gould.
Yeah, well, you know what? In that third Origin game, because he come back in the third Origin game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he dialed it back, and he was fine. But then towards the end of the match, he dialed it up, and you were like, oh, this is what I don't like. But I got to say, in that, I think it was that second Origin game when it was, who was it that was commentating? It was Billy Slater and someone else. And it was really, really good commentary. I think it might have been Andrew Johns. Really, really good commentary. And, you know, the backlash against the way that Phil Gould commentated the grand final, I think said a lot. And he's been like, it's been going downhill for a long time for him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The problem is he's still got too much say in the media landscape about how rugby league is played and run and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he sits there jittering, banging on like a Karen, and too many people within the game listen to him and do what he says. And it's been bad for the game. Which leads me to number 3, and that's Phil Rothfield.
Yeah, Phil Rothfield, he does so much TV stuff now, and I don't think it compares anywhere close to when he writes, you know?
That's right. He's just becoming more and more irrelevant.
Yeah, but I think it's his TV stuff doesn't do him any favors.
No, that's true.
On it, you know, if it was just the writing, he still writes some interesting stuff. At least you can say that. I mean, I don't read the Telegraph at all. There's just nothing in it ever that I look at. But every so often I'll see an article come up from him, and it's you'll be like, oh yeah, that's a story. But then you see him on TV, and it's not great.
No, not at all. Just trying to think. Let's see. Dean Ritchie?
Oh no. No.
No, he shouldn't be on the list.
No, just complete disregard. Yeah.
Complete disregard. Well, that means he should be on the list. He needs to get a lot better.
Oh, that's easy.
He is just fucking shithouse.
Yeah, not good.
Paul Crawley.
I didn't hear much about Paul Crawley this year.
Well, that's because he just sounds like Phil Rothfield.
Yeah. We should call him 2.0. No, we should call him 2.0.
2.0. Whether we call him Paul Rothfield.
Paul Rothfield.
Or Phil Crawley.
So I honestly, my timeline stopped watching NRL 360. I didn't watch it. I think I watched 5 minutes of it this year, and that was enough. But my timeline used to light up about NRL 360, and this year it didn't. And I think that,
Well, that's a sign that people have also started to turn off it.
Yeah.
I stopped watching it.
Yeah.
And usually it's one of those things that I like to rage watch, so I've got something to talk about on the podcast. And now I've just gone, you know what? I can't be fucked anymore. Let's go. Now, I'll just find something else to talk about. And I've just moved on from that period in my life.
Yeah.
Number 6, I got Matthew Johns.
Yeah, what does Matthew Johns do now? Oh, he's got his show on Fox Sports.
Yeah, where he says exactly the same jokes every week.
Every week, yeah.
And then he does them on his podcast as well, every week.
He doesn't have a radio show. Well, he's not on radio anymore. He was successful enough in radio. I'm not going to say that he got punted from radio. You know what I mean? But, yeah. Whenever the footy ends and his show comes on, it's not for me, and that's all right. But those weird opinions, like needing a fourth state of origin game where it's winner takes all. What's that all about?
He thinks he's some sort of, I don't know, rugby league intellectual because of his brother. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It's got me a bit, man. I don't understand how the hell he works.
Yeah. People must watch him. I mean, he must drag in ratings and stuff, but it's just not the sort of show I'm interested in watching.
It's because, the likes of Paul Vaughton back in the 90s got everyone in the rugby league world excited about, dick and tit jokes. And so Matthew Johnson's just running off the back of that.
I think
still an audience for it.
I think that there's a place in sports commentary for a less serious version of commentary. And I actually watched that Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. fight today, and Snoop Dogg was a commentator on it. And he was absolutely amazing as a commentator. And he was just making jokes the whole time. Like at one point, Mike Tyson comes in against Roy Jones, and Snoop's going like, "Get out of there, Roy! Get out of there!" And it was just that little difference, and it made it entertaining. And so I think there is a place for that, but it's a real time and a place for it. Like, you got to pick your spots.
You do indeed, and you can't overplay it either.
No,
that'd be the problem with that.
And you got to come up with some fresh material.
So I've named 6, man. Can you bring one to the table?
Okay, one I would bring to the table. I'm trying to think of any of the journos out there. What about Danny Weidler? He's had a quiet year this year.
He has had a quiet year, and I must say, given I've not watched Channel 9 pretty much at all this year, other than the first half of the Origin games.
Yep.
Because that's all, dad duty's got in the way. I've not had to put up with him talking or his fucking ear.
Yeah, they're looking at the back of his ear. Yeah, I don't know, he's had a quiet year.
Is there anyone that's exclusively on radio? Because see, you've got the Sydney radio market up there. I don't get any of it.
Yeah.
Well,
once 2GB was bought by Channel 9, and all of their sport, but they just chucked all their sport people at 2GB. And it's I've joked with you about it. Like, you put on 2GB and it's Mark Levy and Paul Gallen talk, and it takes every part of your being to not just want to drive off a fucking cliff. Hearing those two talking is like, it's like the worst thing in the world. There's nothing worse than it at all.
Mark Levy just makes me sad.
Yeah.
All I want him to do is just get off Twitter.
All of his accounts.
Just get off Twitter, Mark.
Yeah.
Don't talk about what's going on Twitter. Just walk away from it.
I don't follow him, so I don't see it.
Neither do I, but I hear and see a lot of the followers, or people who I follow are talking about him every now and then. I just go, is this still going on?
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion either way. I just think, man, someone's got to stop the charade, and he just needs to get out of it.
I feel like Twitter is going to start to be used differently by people, hey?
With burner accounts?
Hey?
Just creating burner accounts?
No. I feel as though if people do stay on it, it is going to start to be like you post something and walk away from it. You don't engage in conversations.
Oh, so kind of using it kind of like Facebook?
Yes. Yeah. That's how that's how I use Facebook.
Yeah, look, the trick to being successful on Facebook mentally is to post shit and then never look at the comments.
Yeah.
Just walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Facebook's a mess.
And I have been doing that for years now. So when people, every time somebody mentions Facebook to me, they hate it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be going there. All right, we'll put Mark Levy on the list.
No, I picked fucking Danny Widler.
Oh, Danny Whittle. He's not even fucking relevant. All right, we'll put him on there.
He's more relevant than Mark Levy.
Neither am I, really. Was Widler the one who tried to interview the Trebojeviches when they were during lockdown? And instead of just doing it over Skype or something like that, he decided that he needed to go out there and be seen on TV wearing a face mask.
Oh, I don't know.
I remember seeing that going, the fuck are you doing?
I feel like he might have done an interview with Sonny Bill Williams.
Of course he did.
Where they showed Sonny Bill Williams from
bench.
his balcony and they were talking over a phone. Which is... Oh, I wasn't even mad. I was just impressed.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting thing about this list is we've got no Paul Kent on there.
Yeah.
That's because he's just been consistently the same.
Yeah, he's just always middle of the road.
Yeah. And besides, we can't shit on the man because we get about 7 episodes a year out of him.
Yeah, the Ask Kenty is fantastic. Yeah. People come up with some really good questions for him.
They do. So we don't hate Paul Kent.
No.
We love his laziness when it comes to answering people's questions.
It's so weird that they have the hashtag and everything. They build it up and they devote, a minute to it?
Yeah, pretty much. If they're lucky, they'll answer maybe 3, but mostly it's 2.
Yeah, it's weird.
And he calls everyone on Twitter peanuts and dickheads and that sort of stuff. So
is he wrong, though? Is he wrong?
I'm not arguing with that one. It just shows how pointless the system is when he fucking hates it himself.
Yeah, that's
like while we're having a Twitter thing when I fucking hate Twitter and I hate the fucking people. That's his attitude.
Yeah.
And you gotta agree with him on that sense. Yeah, if you don't fucking like it, why do it?
Yeah, do you reckon that they just have pushed it on him just to make him angry?
Pretty much. This will fire him up.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Let's get a former halfback pissed off. Like that's hard work to do.
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
Yeah. There you go. We've done our list.
Yeah,
we would have put Marks and John on there, but no one knows who you are, mate.
Jesus.
That's harsh but fair.
That's very harsh.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't read any of the footy. Like, I don't go to Fox Sports. In fact, people hear on the podcast when I go to Fox Sports. I haven't read the Telegraph for a long time. Occasionally I'll check out the Sydney Morning Herald website, but it's been a long time since there was anything on there I found interesting.
Yeah, and we know that, especially last year, towards the end of the year, we were pretty much just dining out on the shit that they were serving up all the time.
Mm.
This year, people will be able to freely see that we've really scaled back on that hard.
Yeah.
We're not going there anymore. We'll just read whatever's off the NRL website.
Yeah, well, and the NRL website's pretty damn good at keeping you up to date with what's going on in the league.
Yeah.
And all of it, it's not like you get just the PR spin aspect.
They've got a few pieces of opinion
on the other stuff.
Yeah, they do have a bit of opinion on there, and they do tend to wait until they've got the facts first on stuff before they put it on there. More often than not than the mainstream media, anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
That makes their content relevant. So there we go. That's a pretty good list.
Yeah, I like our lists, and I like that episode. We did good.
We've done brilliant.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, who do you think's the king of the mainstream media commentators?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. Man, That's really, really difficult.
How's about that bloke who does that podcast with me?
Oh, that bloke.
Yeah.
He's a prick.
He's King Prick, though.
He's true. That's true. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not good with these. I try not to take in any media, so...
Yeah, I'll go with one name, and that's Roy Masters.
Yeah, I like reading when Roy... I was just thinking before, I can't remember the last time I saw a Roy Masters article on the Sydney Morning Herald website, hey?
I think he's an independent writer now, so...
Okay.
Because he's not shitting on the game all the time, they've probably decided to scale him back.
Yeah, they wouldn't like that.
Yeah, that doesn't fit with the modus operandi. Well, that's been a pretty good episode.
Yeah, and like we were talking about before we started recording, that's like the end of everything we have like planned for the season proper. And now we can do things that we just kind of want to do from now on for the rest of the off season. It's great.
It is. Have we had any emails after we've done that great email episode?
Let me have a
look.
look.
The last one.
I haven't checked the emails at all today.
I'm guessing Ash has probably sent in another 5 or 6 more.
Ash sent some really good emails in, none via the email address, but we asked people to use the website because it's easier to see who sent in. Yeah, let's have a look. No nuance.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah,
and there's been no new comments either.
That's fine. It's only been a couple of days.
Yeah, but if you find it in your hearts, people, get out there and give us a comment and give us a 5-star review so we can read it out on the podcast, and we'll put it up on the website as well. I guess we wrapped it up, haven't we?
Yeah, I wonder what our next episode will be about, hey?
Something to do with the history of the game, probably.
Probably, yeah. We'll do a history one. I'd like to do you know what I'd like to do? And it's one that like mainly surrounds the work you do, is another profile on someone.
That can all be arranged.
Yeah, I like the profile ones.
Alrighty. I have to figure out who we've done a profile on and who we haven't yet.
Yeah.
I've lost track.
Like, who would be a good player to do a profile on?
Have we done Pat Walsh?
Did we do Pat Walsh? That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Because if we haven't, his story is brilliant.
It's hard to remember what we have talked about together and what we've actually recorded.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Let me look on my website and see if it comes up as a podcast episode. Chaos of 1909.
I was in with that.
Yeah, maybe he was in with that.
I didn't put the whole thing in there, though, but it ties in with that.
Okay. Yeah, so we haven't done a dedicated one to him,
though. Yeah. All right, we might do that one then.
Okay, sweet.
Sorted. We'll sort that out. We'll put that one up. That's a pretty good episode.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I think we've pretty much nailed this.
Sorted it.
People, go to manscaped.com and get anything you want there. When you get to the checkout, type in the code NRL. That's our gift to you. You'll get 20% off plus free shipping and a 30-day money back guarantee. So get out and check out their stuff. We would love if you did that. Also, check us out on Twitter and Instagram at FergoFreakPod. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, so get over there and check us out there. You can check out our website, fergoandthefreak.com, and they can leave us a message for you.
Yeah, go to the contact section and chuck in a message and press send, and we'll get it and we'll read it out on air.
And also over there, Freaky's done some great work on that website to make sure that everything's sort of in a bit more order. So if you want to find just the history pieces, he's got them all there lined out for you.
Yeah, you can also, the history ones are we've got a section for them. We've also got a section for all the guests we have on, which is pretty cool. You can see all the people we've talked to. So, it's not a bad website. It does exactly what you need it to do.
It's a fantastic website. It's one of several websites the Freaky owns, and he does brilliant work on all of them.
Thank you. I try.
Try. Also, make sure you check him out over at Patreon at patreon.com/leaguefreak. He's got a few tiers over there, so sign up to one and, toss in 1 or 2 coffees, pretty much is all it is per month, and you'll be helping out one of the longest-running independent rugby league content creators there is.
But they need to also make sure that they go to patreon.com/RL Project, because all of that money goes towards the digitization of rugby league history, which is super important. Goes towards Rugby League Project, which every single one of us uses. It's a fantastic website, so get behind it.
Agreed. And I think that pretty much is it.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening.
Catch us all next time.